Hold on to your hats, folks, because the White House just hit the pause button on a whole lot of money. This unprecedented move has sent shockwaves through various sectors, leaving many to wonder what comes next. As of 5 p.m. on January 28, 2025, a chill wind swept through the federal government, freezing the distribution of federal grants and loans. This decision has left many government offices eerily quiet, as if time itself has come to a standstill. Trillions of dollars, meant for everything from scientific research to feeding hungry families, are now stuck in bureaucratic limbo. The ripple effects of this freeze are being felt far and wide, affecting countless lives and projects. Direct assistance programs like Social Security and Medicare are exempt from this freeze. These essential services will continue to operate, providing a small comfort to those who depend on them. But for countless other programs and the millions who rely on them, the future just got a whole lot more uncertain. The uncertainty is palpable, with long lines forming outside assistance centers and worried faces becoming a common sight. The White House has decided to put a hold on funding for a vast array of programs, impacting everything from environmental protection to arts education. This sweeping decision has left many wondering about the priorities of the current administration. Think of the after-school programs, job training initiatives, and scientific research. All of these are now in jeopardy. The halt has cast a shadow over numerous initiatives that were designed to build a better future. The White House hasn't given a clear timeline for when or even if these funds will be released. The lack of communication has only added to the growing anxiety, leaving everyone in a state of suspense. So why the sudden freeze, you ask? It's a question on everyone's mind, and the answer isn't as straightforward as it might seem. The White House says it's about fiscal responsibility, a term that gets thrown around a lot but rarely explained in detail. Essentially, it means aligning spending with the president's priorities, which can be a moving target depending on the political climate. They claim this pause will give them time to review agency programs, scrutinizing every dollar spent to ensure it aligns with their goals. This move didn't happen in a vacuum. It's part of a string of executive orders designed to tighten the administration's grip on federal spending. It's a calculated strategy. Remember when they tried to defund public broadcasting? That was just the beginning. Or proposed massive cuts to education and healthcare? These are not isolated incidents but part of a broader agenda. This is more of the same, a continuation of efforts to reshape the federal budget. Direct assistance programs like Social Security, Medicare, and certain veterans' benefits are exempt from the pause. These programs are untouchable for now. Messing with those programs would be political suicide, a risk no administration is willing to take. But for every program that's been spared, countless others are left hanging in the balance. From environmental protection to disaster relief, the uncertainty is palpable. The list of programs facing potential cuts goes on, leaving many to wonder what the future holds for essential services and support systems. While the White House claims this pause is about fiscal responsibility, it's clear certain programs are in their crosshairs. We're talking about initiatives related to foreign aid, NGOs, DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, and the Green New Deal. The memo mentions the possibility of case-by-case exceptions for new awards or other actions deemed essential. However, the criteria for these exceptions are unclear. There's vague language about administrative actions like closing out existing grants, being allowed to continue as required by law. This lack of clarity is incredibly frustrating, making it impossible for organizations to plan for the future. As you might expect, this pause hasn't been met with open arms. Nonprofits are warning about the devastating impact on vital services for vulnerable populations. These organizations are often the ones providing essential services to those who need them most. Universities engaged in federally funded research are also feeling the heat. The Association of American Universities is scrambling to assess the impact on ongoing projects and future funding opportunities. Even some members of the president's own party are expressing concern. Top Democratic appropriators have called the move reckless and irresponsible. The outcry highlights the widespread fear and uncertainty caused by this sudden freeze. For those of you paying attention, this latest move should come as no surprise. This administration has a history of attempting to control federal funding in ways that circumvent Congress. Remember the border wall built with funds diverted from military construction projects? Or the attempts to withhold federal funding from sanctuary cities and defund Planned Parenthood. This pattern suggests a fundamental disregard for the separation of powers and the role of Congress in appropriating funds. This latest move, with its vague justifications and lack of transparency, is just the latest example of this troubling trend. The ripple effects of this funding freeze are already being felt across the country. Communities everywhere are bracing for the impact, unsure of what the future holds. Universities are scrambling to adjust their budgets, fearing that long-term research projects could be jeopardized. Professors and students alike are worried about the continuity of their work and studies. Nonprofits, already operating on shoestring budgets, are being forced to make impossible choices about which essential services to cut. These organizations are the backbone of many communities, providing critical support to those in need. Do they lay off staff, reduce their outreach programs, reduce services to vulnerable populations, close their doors altogether? The decisions are heart-wrenching and the stakes are incredibly high. And what about the families who rely on these programs for everything from affordable housing to job training to childcare? These families are already struggling to make ends meet. This pause could have a devastating impact on their lives, pushing them further into poverty and despair. The safety nets they depend on are fraying. The potential consequences of this funding freeze are far-reaching and potentially disastrous. Communities, universities, nonprofits, and families are all at risk, and the road to recovery could be long and arduous. So, what happens next? Your guess is as good as mine. The White House has given no indication of when this pause might be lifted or what criteria they will use to evaluate affected programs. We need to stay informed, contact our elected officials, and make our voices heard. This is our money, and we have a right to demand that it be used responsibly and ethically. We must remain vigilant, engaged, and unwilling to accept this blatant power grab as the new normal.